My name is Rachel Rofe. I created the show because I wanted to help you see that if you have a choice, you can choose a better life. If you're listening to this podcast, you're in a pretty fortunate position. You have free will, ability to connect to the internet, and access to all kinds of new education. This podcast is meant to help you make the most of your good fortune. We talk with all kinds of people here from all walks of life because I want you to see that no matter what your situation, there's always a way to create a life that you're proud of. Today's show is all about how you can add in exercise to your work day. So even if you have a crazy busy life and you have to get a lot done, how you can still incorporate movement into your day. And this is something that I originally became really interested in when I was reading about how harmful sitting was. I mean, it's common sense that sitting all day isn't great, but I've been reading all kinds of things about how it can shorten your lifespan and all these different side effects that can happen from it. And I know that there's research out there that shows that pretty much anything is bad, but it also, of course, is common sense that we're not meant to sit around all the time. Since I started researching and hearing all about this sitting thing, I've done all kinds of things to try and get in as much movement as possible. And so now I'm at a place where I'm averaging like 8 to 10 miles a day that I'm walking, and it's been great. And a lot of people have been asking me how I do it. So my amazing podcast editor, Brooke, suggested that I make this an episode, and so here we are. So I'll go over different ways that you can get exercise, both in walking and other kinds of ideas, and then you can just use this for either, even if you just aren't necessarily crazy busy, but you just want to get some exercise in some other kind of unique ways, or even if you do have a lot that you need to get done on a regular basis, the different things that I'm going to share with you are ways that you can get exercise in a reasonable way, and it's attainable. I'll tell you what I have right now, and to get a lot of exercise, I realize this is unattainable for some people. And I'll tell you what to do if you can't get one. But right now, the way that I'm getting in a ton of movement, and I still got in a ton of movement before it, is I have a treadmill desk. And I love this thing. It was actually a surprise gift from my boyfriend when he saw how obsessed I was with walking all the time. If you want to check out my treadmill, it's at rachelrofe.com/treadmill. It was $1,000. There's ones that are a lot cheaper. And then there's also ways I've heard that you can make them very inexpensively as well. But that's the one that I have. I love it. And then I use it in conjunction with a stand-up desk. I got my stand-up desk from standdesk.co. And it's awesome. It's really cheap compared to other ones on the market. It's great, does exactly what I need, and I love it. So for me with the treadmill, people have asked me if it affects my thinking or my typing or different things. I actually find that most times I think better when I'm walking, and most times I'm just going really, really slow. Like I'll go on 1.2, which is 1.2 miles an hour. And then if I'm watching a video or something where I don't need to type, I'll go a lot faster and kind of get my heart rate up. I absolutely love it. I work better. I feel better when I'm standing versus sitting. One of the reasons why I was so slow to get a stand-up desk, because first I had a stand-up desk, then I got the treadmill, was because I thought it was going to impact the way that I worked. I thought I was going to not be able to think as clearly. I was going to have to work with the balance, and I'm completely uncoordinated. But now I actually love it. I find that I'm working better, and I actually have to remind myself a lot to sit down because I just don't. I'll keep walking for hours and hours and hours. Now, as I said, I know that not everybody can go right out and get a treadmill desk for all kinds of reasons, whether it's affordability or if you're working in an office where that's just not okay. So different things that you can do. One thing I used to do all the time, right now it's really, really hot in Vegas, but during the winter, I would reward myself with walks after I got certain amounts of work done. So I might say, I'm going to work for 90 minutes, and then after I do, I'm going to go for a walk around the neighborhood. And I felt so much happier when I was doing that. I was getting out in nature, I was able to think better, and it was nice to start treating those walks as a reward because it was like, it puts me in a good mindset for loving walking, which I do love walking anyway, but anytime you see exercise as a reward, I think that's a pretty good thing. So there was that. Sometimes I would also pace. So if the weather was bad, I'd just pace in my house. So when I moved to Vegas, I got lucky because I have a lot more space here. But even when I was living in New York City, I had an 840 square foot apartment, and I would just pace in the bedroom. So not even the whole apartment because I didn't want to drive my boyfriend crazy. So I would just go in my bedroom back and forth, back and forth. And then also even during phone calls, instead of sitting down with the phone calls, I would pace during phone calls. I would pace during videos. I know that that could sound obsessive, but I mean, why not, right? Like if you're not going to be able to get concentrated work done anyway, you may as well get some movement in while you're doing those things. I was obsessive, but I actually even paced while I was watching movies sometimes. And the reason why I got so obsessive about the pacing and the walking was because I got a Fitbit. Fitbit is awesome. If you don't have a Fitbit, oh my gosh, I love it. It helps you track, right? It helps you track the steps that you walk every day, and what you track improves. So see my episode on tracking for more about that. I especially did that for a business sense. But the Fitbit says to try and get 10,000 steps a day, which works out to about 5 miles. And so you can, I mean, there's all different types of Fitbits. I have one where it's on my wrist. I can see how many steps I've been walking, and it helps me kind of get perspective in the day. So if it's early in the day and I realize I haven't gotten enough steps yet, I start to mentally think, what can I do to make sure that I'm getting in my steps? You can also do competitions with people. So if you're a competitive person, this is really fun. You can do daily showdowns with people where you see who gets more steps, or you can do weekday warrior competitions, or maybe it's a weekend warrior and then work week hustle. So weekend competitions, work week competitions, all different types of things to see if you can get more steps than other people. If you go to rachelrofay.com/Fitbit, you'll see the Fitbit that I have. I love it. And if you do get one, make sure to add me as a friend. So I'm going to try to have this, if you go to rachelrofay.com/Fitbit friend, if I can, I'll have that redirected to my Fitbit page, and then you'll find me. Because the other cool thing about Fitbit is you can see where you are in comparison to your friends. So it'll do a 7-day average of the steps that you've been walking and compare it to all your friends, which is a fun way to see where you are in the leaderboard. Now, other ways that you can get exercise in, because it's not all about steps, I know. It's a different thing. So one is 7-minute workouts. I know there are a lot of people, I personally have not been doing them, but there are people who swear by doing 7-minute body weight workouts, so where you just do things like squats and push-ups, and I'm told it gives you a ton of bang for your buck. 7 minutes, anybody can budget 7 minutes a day. A friend of mine actually recently consulted with a trainer who told her that this was a great way to see really big results. In fact, it was the only exercise he even told her she had to do. And I don't personally do it, like I said, but I know others who do, and I know from experience, because I've done it in the past, that it can be really easy to see results after a little bit of time. I used to do something where I would do a plank every day for a minute, and in the beginning I couldn't hold the plank for more than like a few seconds, and then within like just a couple weeks, or sorry, not even a couple weeks, within about a week I was able to hold it for like a minute. So these are the types of things that you can just get really awesome momentum on very quickly. So that's really helpful. And I don't know, like I know it sounds weird to say 7 minutes a day, but I have a friend, Chad, who I think he's since sold it, but he had a company in Hollywood where his gym was something where people would go around. He had all kinds of celebrities and things coming in. And I think they worked out for like, oh man, I want to say 30 minutes every 5 days or something. And the thinking was you come in and you push your muscles to the maximum and then you just recover for the other days. And it worked really well. I mean, he was like super ripped, and the celebrities that he was working with were really in shape too. So I don't think you have to do the conventional, hour every day or whatever based on what people have told me. Another thing you can do if you love to go to exercise classes is every Sunday, just schedule in your workouts. So if you go to a gym, for example, then check out the calendar every week and then put in the classes that you want to take on your calendar, and then treat them like important appointments. So if you see 12 p.m. Zumba, like treat it like it's a doctor's appointment or something and make sure to go. My friend Ginny, how she does this is she'll make her schedule every Sunday, and then she'll email all of her friends in the area and say, here's the classes that I'm going to this week. If anyone wants to come, join me. And then this is a great way for her to get some friend time as well. And then, it's always fun to go work out with other people too. It's an extra incentive to make sure that you don't go and skip the class. So that's another way. Another thing you can do is just wake up earlier. Put it in your morning routine. So for more on this, listen to the podcast with Hal Elrod all about morning routines. That should help you. Or the podcast with Steve Scott about implementing habits. So either of those can help you kind of get that morning routine going. So hopefully this gives you some ideas on how you can reasonably get exercise in while you're working without setting yourself up for disappointment or creating these huge goals that actually are hard to make happen and you get disappointed after a few days. As always, if there's anything that you want me to podcast about, like please, please, please let me know. I want to make shows that you want to hear about, and I'd really appreciate knowing if there's anything I could create that'll benefit you. Thanks for listening. Have an awesome day. Thank you so much for listening to A Better Life. You can find all show notes for this episode at rachelrofay.com. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe so you can automatically get access to all new shows. Let's also connect. Just go onto Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram /RachelRofay, and we can talk there. The opinions of all guests here are their own, and I'm not necessarily endorsing any of them. I do want to give you perspective though. And always remember, if you have a choice, choose a better life.